Anderson, Chalmers, Convery, Devlin, Fagan. Councillor Lockhart is currently having IT problems. He's trying to join at the moment. And we also have present Councillors Loudon, McLaughlin, Robb and Ross. And I'll hand back to the Chair. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. First item of declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? There are none, so I'll come to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. Are there any questions on the minutes of the previous meeting? Could you indicate now? Not seeing any questions. Can we agree those as a correct record?
Agreed.
We are agreed. I'll come to item 3, which is the report on the Council Connect plan, and Neil Reid will speak to this item. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is a standard report that we bring to the forum on the progress against the Council Plan Connect, and this is a Q2 report which covers the period 1st of April 2025 to the end of September 2025. So we're reporting on 64 measures against Connect, and that those are nominated from a grand total of 266 measures which appear in resource plans across the Council. The performance summarised at paragraph 4.5, and the table there gives you the usual summary in terms of the blue, green, amber and red totals. From 4.6 onwards, the report gives key achievements against the Council's outcomes, and for each of the measures that we are reporting in this report, there is an appendix which contains a detailed item indicating the progress against that. That's in Appendix 1. There's a second appendix to this report which picks up on items which were previously reported to the forum as being to be reported later, so those are caught up on this report. So essentially that is the content, and the recommendations are to note the content of the report. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Neil. Can I ask if there are any questions on this report? I don't see any, so I think that maybe from my point, just want to highlight the achievements that have been set out. It leads us on to the next item, which deals with some of the red and ambers that are flagged up in the resource plan. So I'm going to come to Neil again to speak to item 4.
Yep, thanks, Chair. So that's exactly what this is. This is a focus on the red and amber measures which have been reported through resource plans to resource committees, and the idea is essentially that we focus on those red and amber results to give them a bit of extra scrutiny. So if it's warts and all reporting, these are the warts, and we're focusing on those in this report. So essentially it's a very similar format to the previous report. There is an appendix which lists all of the red and amber measures, gives you a bit of narrative about why they are red or amber, and there are some summary tables in this report showing what the totals look like across a number of years by resource. That's table 1 at 4.2 in the report, and at table 2 at 4.4 it shows the red and ambers by Connect outcome, but there is an appendix which captures all of these, and essentially recommendations again to note the content of the report. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask if there are any questions on the report? And could I come to Kirsten Robb?
Afternoon, everyone. Just a quick question on the Calderwood multi-stories on page 57. This is in my ward. It was just to really request an update just now or outside of this meeting, an updated timescale for the project, but also to see how residents and tenants will be more engaged with what is quite a new technology for them, just so they understand the implications, what it will look like and so on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm going to ask Craig Jardine to pick that one up. Craig?
I don't have the specifics in terms of the delivery programme, but I'll liaise with our housing colleagues and get that to you, Councillor.
Thank you. And the point about engaging with tenants and residents and what's quite a new project for them.
It is. There is an issue with the project in terms of the supplier contractor, which we're working through just now. So at this stage, there has been no community engagement.
Okay, I know it's gone through planning though, so there was a little bit of engagement with residents, and I think they were quite keen to learn more about the technology
Yep.
and see opportunities. So I think there's potential for visits and things like that.
Yeah,
but
it
thank
will
you.
be subject to a review of the design itself by the original supplier contractor. But at this stage, we're not in a position to give any further update on who that could be.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we take on board the point that as we're ready to proceed, we'll make sure to do that engagement and education piece with the residents. Okay. Are there any other questions on that report? I'm not seeing any, so can we come then to, I'm just going to check recommendations here, which I think are okay. But can I come then to item, can we agree that and come to item 5, which is a local government benchmarking framework report? And Tom Little is going to speak to this. Tom.
Thanks, Chair. Afternoon, everyone. So this is the second year we've brought you an update of this type. It's on our local government benchmarking framework results, in this case for 2023-2024. We've introduced this additional report for the second year because when the initial results are released earlier in the year, there's a significant number of measures for which no data is available at that time. In fact, when the initial report this year came to the forum in April, 22 of the 102 measures were not available, so that's 1 in 5 practically of the measures. So we're bringing you this update now when there's only 3 measures are not available. We provide a fuller picture for you in terms of the Council's performance against the LGBF measures. As with the previous report that came in April, a full narrative on all measures is provided at Appendix 1. And as usual, we summarise the results for you in the table at 4.2, which is page 62 of your papers. And it shows that in 23-24, performance was improving at the Council in 51 of the measures and declining in 42 of the measures. And 57 of our results were better than the Scottish average, while 40 were worse than the Scottish average. That's this report in a snapshot. The recommendations are to note these results, and that once approved, we'll update our performance pages and also our specialist LGBF dashboard to bring them up to date. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any questions in this report? Not seeing any questions. Can we agree the report and come to item, thank you, and come to item 7, which is an update on our transformational reviews. Sorry, it's not, it's item 6, which is a report on the Accounts Commission's best value audit of North Ayrshire Council, and it's back to you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So we bring you these as soon as possible after they're published. It's a series of reports that summarise the main points that have been found within the best value audits of other Scottish councils. And as you say, in this case, it's North Ayrshire Council's report that was published in October of this year. Now, the aim of bringing these is to highlight for you good practice and also place our own activities in context. The report's there to be read. I would say it's a very favourable report, and it picks out a few things that they're doing in North Ayrshire, including its commitment to securing best value, its work with partners, its transformation programme, and its approach to community engagement and empowerment. The report's here for noting, and as I say, the full report's there for more details.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions in that report? I don't have a question myself, but maybe just to highlight the solar farm work that they've done in North Ayrshire, and I think we want to make sure that we are monitoring what happens with the power of general competence and any potential audit implications that arise from that, and what lessons might we learn in South Lanarkshire when it comes to developing options for investment here. Paper is just for noting, so we note that report and come to item 7 on the transformational reviews and an update on that from Jackie Taylor.
Thank you. Afternoon. This is a regular report we bring to the forum on the progress we have on our programme of transformational reviews. We'll pick up cross-cutting reviews which cross over all resources, as well as some specific resource reviews that have been undertaken. And we are now able to report on the savings that have been identified from some of these reviews that are included within our savings proposals that were presented to the Executive Committee earlier this month. And they total just over £3 million, and we'll summarise those in a second for you. So firstly, picking up the cross-cutting reviews that have been undertaken this year, they're picked up in section 4 of the report. Firstly, procurement, which is at the top of page 98, section 4.2. So procurement review is looking at what we buy and how we buy things, and we've seen previous savings for the 25-26 budget year of £940,000. What we're now reporting as part of our savings pack is savings into 26-27, totalling just over £800,000. So this review continues to deliver efficiencies, true efficiencies, in how we buy. We're also working with Solace and the Improvement Service on a work stream for procurement collaboration, and that includes areas such as waste, fleet and digital. So hopefully that will continue to deliver benefits going forward. Fleet review at 4.7 is an area that we've previously reported to the forum, and we've seen progress in bringing our council fleet back to pre-COVID levels, which helps obviously manage costs in the long term. We continue to work on our fleet cohort to make sure that we are optimising our lease periods and getting the most out of the vehicles that we have, and also looking at our pool car usage and rates. A review on organisational and management structures is picked up at 4.10. What this has done is look between the balance between the managers that we have in our structures and the staff that are being managed. The first phase of this review brought £1 million of savings that were identified for the 25-26 financial year. And for phase 2, we continue to identify savings with a further 900,000 identified and included within the savings proposals for next financial year. Overtime is another area that we've continued to look at, and it's continued to identify savings for us. We have savings proposals of just over £990,000 included in our proposal pack for next year's budget. This is as a result of focused resource overtime action plans, and that is predominantly around looking at targeting areas such as making sure that we've got regular and recurring recruitment activity, and also managing absence in the best possible way to try and avoid the need for overtime where it's not necessary. Our customer engagement review is picked up at 4.17. This is an area that the forum have seen separate reports on previously. This is a longer term project, but we do expect that we should see improvements and efficiencies through customer contact processes and systems across the council. We have identified a relatively small saving that's included within our proposals for next year's budget, and that's around streamlining the management structure, but also pooling of call handling resource, and that will bring £48,000 of saving next financial year and a further 38 the year after. But as I say, the review is longer term and it's ongoing, and we do expect to see benefits through structural change, through process reviews, and also through new technologies. Linked to the review on customer service, we have our digital transformation review, and that's picked up at 4.22. Again, this is an area that we've seen separate reports to the forum on previously, and again reflects another longer term review that we should hope to continue to see benefits from going forward. 3 areas of focus in the review are detailed there at 4.22. It's around looking at our business systems and processes. It's looking around tools to help with workforce productivity, and also very much linked to our customer engagement plan. We do again have some small level of savings identified for next financial year of £30,000, but we do expect more in the way of benefits and efficiencies going forward. At 4.24, we're picking up our in-house and procured services review. There's a separate paper in this agenda pack, which we'll come on to in the next agenda item. So that's our cross-cutting reviews. Section 5 picks up a couple of resource-specific reviews. Firstly, the third sector review at 5.2. This review has now reported to the Executive Committee earlier this month. We've included a link at 5.4 to that paper. This is a really positive outcome from this review. It ensures that we can continue to build strong relationships with our local third sector and see support both coming from them and from us in order to build on that relationship. Our factoring review is picked up at section 5.5, again an area that we've reported on previously. We're now looking to report the outcome of this review into the new financial year, and you can see some information there about the progress that's been made. At 5.7, we're picking up on the long-term estate strategy, and that includes depot rationalisation, which obviously is one of the assets that the council holds. This, as you know, is a strategic and outcome-focused look at the assets that we hold, and that should result in our ability to generate a 10-year asset strategy. You can see there the bullets at 5.7, what that will hope to achieve. There's 3 phases to this review, and they're detailed there from 5.8. So the first phase is about collation of data, and as you'll appreciate the number of assets that the Council has, that's been a fair exercise. And using that, we're able to move on to look to identify proposed priority projects that will utilise the £24 million that has been set aside as part of previous budgets that were agreed. And then the final phase of that is about pulling together that estate strategy and the associated delivery plan, which we expect to be over the short, medium and longer term. And the plan is to report a final position on that to the Executive Committee early in the new financial year. 5.12 picks up on the depot rationalisation element of that. Now, really, it's another asset group that we've included within our estates review, and there's some feasibility studies that are underway to look at how we can inform options around our depots. At 5.15, we're picking up on the planning and regulatory review. This is another review that's identified savings that are included within our proposals for the 26-27 budget, and they are detailed there at 5.16 and 5.17. This is through income generation, both reflecting the levels of income that we're currently achieving and also some proposed charges for enhanced pre-application advice. So as I say, that will bring in £272,000 of savings. And then at 5.19, we're picking up on another area of property services that we've looked at over the year, and this is around efficiencies and income generation. In reality, this is looking at the operations of our property services and has been very much linked to other reviews that I've reported on, including our organisational and management structures, our fleet services review, and also the in-house review that we'll get to in the next agenda item. And then finally, at 5.22, picking up routes to work south. Now, there's a paper that's been presented to the Executive Committee in early December that will report on the outcome of that review. This is really driven by the changes in employability policy that we've seen and also the funding landscape in recent years. And that's prompted us to look at our current delivery mechanism and to ensure that that continues to be the best way forward. So as I say, that will get reported to our Executive Committee in December, and we'll provide an update at the next forum for your information. So just to finalise some of the information that I've reported, at section 7, we've summarised the financial implications from the reviews that have been undertaken this year. So we can see that just over £3 million of proposed savings have been identified from these reviews. So it has been a worthy exercise in terms of undertaking the reviews, and will continue to do so for those reviews that can continue to generate benefit for us going forward. So just taking you back to the recommendations, this is a report for noting, but happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Jackie. Can I ask if there are any questions? And if so, could you please indicate now? And I will come to Katie Loudon.
Thanks very much, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a comment and then a question on Routes to Work South, page 103. At 5.23, it talks about the funding which Routes to Work South currently receives, including the UK Government's shared prosperity funding. And then the next paragraph talks about changes in the funding landscape, which did find a wee bit euphemistic because shared prosperity funding has been slashed by the UK Government by 40% this year, and then it's been scrapped altogether next year and being replaced by Pride in Place funding. In terms of the Pride in Place funding, we know at the moment it looks like a whole parliamentary constituency has already been ruled out of being able to benefit from this Pride in Place funding in South Lanarkshire because of the UK Government criteria. And this is a constituency where one of the Routes to Work South offices is actually based. It says we're getting a report to the Executive in December, and Jackie's just reiterated that. I'd like to put a flag in the sand ahead of that, just to say I think we'd be all interested to see then and to have reflected in that report what the effect of that funding change is going to be. So if a parliamentary constituency has been ruled out of that, and what it means for partners who deliver services for us across the whole of the council area. In terms of a question, I'd just like to check with Jackie, what kind of engagement has happened or is planned with Routes to Work South ahead of this paper coming to the exec in December?
Okay, Jackie.
Alison will take this question, if that's okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Loudon. Yes, you're correct around the shared prosperity funding. There's no clarity around funding for next year. We're still awaiting that, whether that information will be any clearer to as a result of the budget. But we are doing some scenario planning around what a cut in that budget from this year, which, as you again rightly say, was significantly reduced. It isn't anticipated that there will be a further cut to that budget in the new local growth fund. So we are currently doing some scenario planning around what that might look like and what mitigation measures will the council need to consider. Until we get clarity on that, I suppose to a degree we're all second guessing, but there is work going on behind the scenes, and in due course we'll obviously come back with a substantive paper on shared prosperity funding. The Routes to Work South paper that's coming to Exec Committee is very much looking at the organisation, what it does and what it does very well in terms of some of its delivery. We're also looking at is there any areas of overlap of activity, and can those can we ensure that we're working as streamlined as we can, and that we have identified a couple of areas of that. So again, I will present that paper to Exec Committee next week, but undoubtedly there will be further papers on this subject going forward.
Great, thanks very much, Alison. Thank you.
Okie dokie, thank you very much. Could I come to Kirsten Robb?
Thank you. Thanks for the report as well. It's lots of good work getting done to review things. I just wanted to ask a wee bit about the estate strategy on page 1. Just a reminder, really. Can you remind me if school MUGAs are included in this estate strategy review? And if not, where are we at with looking at the state of MUGAs, please?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Robb. All of the school estate and our wider estate is included within the review. Obviously, the MUGAs are part of the wider school asset base, so it will be part of the considerations around schools. Now, we know schools are one of our probably our newest and best condition assets. So without preempting the outcome of a review, I don't think schools are necessarily going anywhere. However, I think what you're probably more concerned about is condition of some of the parts of our estate. And for MUGAs in particular, I know there's a particular focus around what we spend our life cycle maintenance monies on an annual basis, and that includes our consideration of when a MUGA would require some investment. So that's how we're dealing with the particular issue around repairs on MUGAs. But I can confirm that schools, of course, are included within our estates review.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could I come out to Jerry?
Yeah, just to welcome the report. I think it's very positive, and the fact that we've got savings of over £3 million is a testament it's the right thing we're doing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Just a few points from me. Maybe if I start with the point around MUGA pitches, I think there has been some ongoing work there, and I suppose the issue there is, as Jackie says, it's really about the life cycle, because we've got to remember that school modernisation programme, it's a very, very new estate, but it is a programme that started 20 years ago, so we will have life cycle issues there, and I know that certainly from my own ward experience we are looking at options, and we've had some success with trying to bring investment into the MUGA pitches. If I could come to the Routes to Work South point that has been made, it is a very challenging funding landscape. We do need clarity from the UK government as to what the successor funding streams will look like. There isn't a lot of clarity there just now. What there is clarity about, unfortunately, is the reduction in employability and skills funding from the Scottish Government, and that no one left behind is not replacing adequately the programmes that existed beforehand. So that is a very challenging environment for our partners. In terms of the paper itself, I also want to welcome the progress that we're making with these transformational reviews. I think the to me, it's a success, and it's a sign of success that transformational reviews are doing so much of the heavy lifting going into these budget processes. When we formed this administration, we said we wanted to look at how we could save money through looking at our organisational and management structures, through looking at where there was value to be realised by bringing contracts back in-house, and also looking at municipal and progressive forms of income generation. And it's reassuring to me to see all those areas covered in this report, and indeed in other reports that have come to this forum before. On those points about the estate, I do want to make the point that reform when it comes to the estate and reform when it comes to our services is always easier when we have the capacity to make investment. Investment tied to reform, reform tied to investment is always the best way to achieve change. So I would like to thank those councillors that worked with us and supported us in delivering the Leisure and Culture Transformation Fund and delivering this new Estate Transformation Fund that we'll hope to release now over the coming months. And just remind the forum that if we hadn't taken those decisions to balance the budget, but yes, absolutely to balance the budget, but to balance the budget in a fairer way, then what we would see is a much more aggressive retrenchment in local government, retrenchment in our services, effectively a deeper form of austerity that we were able to avoid because of the decisions that we made. And I'd like to thank all those councillors that worked with us in those budget decisions, and indeed all the officials who have been part of this process of transformational reviews. Can I draw us back to the recommendations? There are no other questions, so we agree to note the report.
Agreed.
And I'll come now to item 8, which is on bringing contracts in-house, and Lorraine O'Hagan is going to speak to this item. Lorraine.
Thanks, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Item 8 then is on the conclusion of the work to look to bring contracts in-house. We brought an initial paper to the forum back in April time, and we have been updating the forum as we've gone through the year in terms of the regular reports that come to the forum. But as a quick summary, Section 3.2 explains that we've reviewed the Council's contract register for any service contracts with a total annual value that exceeded £250,000 and which were expected to come to an end within the calendar years 2025 to 2027. And that was really to bring us in line with the kind of timeline for our current budget strategy. This exercise captured approximately 70 areas of spend, and across the spring and summer period, we looked at the merits of in-house versus external service provision for each of those. We took those 70 contracts through a flowchart, which is there for your information, and I think you've seen it before, but it's in Appendix 1 of the paper today. And by doing this, we identified 27 contracts that we felt required further review, with the remaining 43 being retained as external contracts, and they were left sitting to the side. And the reason for that was a number of reasons, really, including if the service was outside the Council's powers, if it was a specialist area and we felt it was not cost effective to skill up our own staff to deliver those service areas, or whether it was just quite clearly cheaper to buy in services from outside than it would have been to deliver the services ourselves in-house. So in going through this exercise, as Section 4.4 notes, we identified some areas of good practice where the in-house provision is actively considered as a matter of course. An example being within the roads construction unit, where it's a regular process to actually look at whether we would go internal or external to provide services. Section 4.7 identifies areas where council staff work alongside external contractors, so we've got a contract in place, but it's used more as a backup in case the council cannot manage internally any short-term peaks in demand. Finally, in that section, in section 4.8, we're noting examples of where council services have simply cost more or would simply cost more in-house than external services, and the particular example we're citing there is in the provision of home care services. So section 5 of the paper then goes on to look at the 27 spend areas where we felt that we could further analyse the information that we had received from the resources and had further discussions. And the results of those are detailed in Appendix 2 for your information. The result was, in effect, 6 further areas where there was additional further action to be taken, with the rest of the contract areas being retained as external contracts. So the first is within education resources, where the resource are looking to evaluate the opportunity to utilise additional internal fleet vehicles for ASN transport, and that would help us reduce the reliance on external contractors. That's a piece of work the resource are looking to undertake, and they will look to commence that in early 2026.
In sections 5.3 and 5.4, you'll note there are 3 areas of housing and technical resources activities where, following committee approval, the resource have undertaken a recruitment campaign to retain a greater proportion of work in-house. And there's 3 areas there noted for your information. In section 5.7, social work resources have looked or are looking to consider the level of in-house daycare provision. And finally, sections 5.7 and 5.8 are detailing the review carried out by social work resources again in relation to the current Equip You service. And ultimately, the decision there is to retain the service contract as is on the basis of best value and the most efficient approach to delivering that service area. In section 6 of the paper, we've noted the requirement to embed consideration of in-house services before we go out and procure externally. In order to ensure that resources are considering in-house and best value as part of their normal business process, the sourcing strategy that's used to procure services externally has been amended to include a section on in-house considerations, and that's to ask resources to provide a justification as why we would go externally rather than provide those services ourselves. Section 6.3 notes that the strategy has now been circulated to the internal procurement network for their consideration and approval, and we'll be looking to roll that document out as the new standard approach in autumn-winter 2025. If I can just refer the forum back to the recommendations in section 2 and ask that they are noted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions? Jerry?
Yep. Just to welcome the report as the person that raised it in the first place. I look forward to more contracts coming back in-house. Thank you.
Okay, and Kirsten Robb.
Thanks again. Yep, welcome news as well. I think not only looking at good quality public sector jobs as well, but also sweating assets like the vehicles as well, or indeed the buildings, to make sure we're using our existing assets to best effect. I did have a question, which is a bit of a side question, about look at the graph, kind of the diagram there prompted thinking about the third sector review. Is there a similar kind of flowchart type thing for third sector contracts, for example? After the outsourcing bit, are we also looking at private and third sector as outsourcing options? Maybe something for the future to consider as we take forward the third sector review, to make sure that we maximise the opportunities to benefit our third sector as well.
Okay, I'm going to come to Jackie Taylor. Jackie?
Yeah, thanks. Very much the third sector is a consideration when we are looking to procure services, and that was very much one of the key outcomes from that third sector review. So there is a responsibility on all of our services now to make sure that we are engaging with the third sector, that they have a seat at the table when we are considering how we deliver our service, and obviously then when we are procuring services, if they are able to help us undertake that work. And that's something that we're working alongside VASLAN with, to make sure that the third sector are ready to procure, to be involved in procurements that we'll run. So very much that's another stream to what we're doing here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions, so can we just note that report? And I don't have any other items of business, any urgent business, so thank you for attendance. I will bring the meeting to a close. Thank you.